Steve, being an entrepreneur has its challenges that somebody who works for your business may not understand. Tell me a little bit about what that looks like.
Well, it looked like for me a different story than it looked like for other people. But for me, it was I was just out of college. I knew from day one I was not able to work with my father. It was a third generation, my grandfather, my father, and then turned out to be myself. So I was out of college and I was heading to Europe to study floral design. I'd been working in the flower shop since I was 8 years old. So I knew that it's something I wanted to do. I just knew also that I was not able to work with my father.
At some point, you had to know that you had all the pieces. You were enough.
I didn't always know until
So the definition of going back to your 10 care, compassionate detachment, how do you see that combined with now?
in the present moment, there are no problems. There's only opportunities to have solutions. So it's a shift in perception. Yeah.
We were saying earlier, that at this point in our careers, we're really very blessed to be able to hand select the folks that we work with, and because it's what's in alignment for us.
Exactly. So there's another game being played with lack of awareness, and I call that the game often played, 1 through 9. And that game has 3 categories: fear, 1 through 9, self-doubt, 1 through 9, guilt, 1 through 9, shame, 1 through 9.
Steve, being an entrepreneur has its challenges that somebody that works for your business may not understand. So being a florist and owning that business to a successful sale, tell me a little bit about what that looks like.
Well, it looked like for me a different story than it looks like for other people. But for me, it was I was just out of college. I knew from day one I was not able to work with my father. It was a third generation, my grandfather, my father, and then it turned out to be myself. So I was out of college and I was heading to Europe to study floral design. I'd been working in the flower shop since I was 8 years old. So I knew that it's something I wanted to do. I just knew also that I was not able to work with my father. So 3 days before I was leaving for Europe to study floral design with a one-way ticket, um, I got a phone call from my mother. They were at an FTD floral convention, and they said, "Your father's had a stroke. Don't leave. We need you to run the flower shop." So I was 21 or 22 years old at the time, and it, I was upset that my father had a stroke, but I also knew that it's an opportunity to run the company. Did I know what I was doing? No. But did I have the background to do it? Yes. I had the passion to do it and I had the education to do it, but education and background and real life experience are really different things. So you learn by your mistakes. And if you don't learn by your mistakes, you make them over and over again. So I'm pretty good at learning by my mistakes and my whole life. So anyway, that's the beginning of my story. And 13 years into running the flower shop, we started at 200,000. By the end, we got it to 2 million, but backtracked so that 13 years into it, I realized that I had everything in the world I wanted and I wasn't happy. And that's when I went to therapy. And that's when my whole life changed to get into personal development, helping others learn that working hard, being busy, building a business doesn't necessarily translate into happiness. So now what I do is focus on happiness and making sure that people are happy in what they do, because that is the foundation, I feel, to everything. Passion-driven happiness, and doing what you do, doing what you love, and making sure you maintain that, and setting boundaries with others and yourself to assure that.
So there's so much to what you just said. Everything from just being the entrepreneur, right? So you really need to love what you do as an entrepreneur, because it gets hard as a business owner, right? And when you do it well, it makes it look easy to everybody else, but it's never easy. It's never easy. And then there's the multi-generational piece, which so many small businesses find themselves in, where I come from a family with a small business, and my brother also made an attempt to work with my dad and then decided he couldn't work with my dad, right? And they, of course, my dad would have been thrilled if he wanted to take the business over and all those things, which didn't happen. But good for my brother that stayed true to himself, knew himself, and was able to stand in his own energy, just like you seemed to know yourself well. Even at a young age, you knew what you weren't going to do. And that's a testament of being self-aware at such a young age. Maybe you didn't have all the parts and pieces yet that you have today,
Right.
But kudos to you that at a young age you said, yeah, I really love this. It just the circumstances around this particular, work with my dad are not going to make me happy, right? I'm sorry to hear that that's how you jumped into the
Well,
family business.
he worked out, he came back 95% and he was just as ornery and feisty as he was before. So that never changed the day he died. At
Good for
92,
him.
at 92. So he was consistent. So I give him credit for that, his
Good for
consistency.
him. And that's a great number, 92. So at some point, you had to know that you had all the pieces.
I didn't always know until I went to therapy, and that's when my whole life changed. It was just a 180 degree from where I was to where I am 33 years later. So that hasn't changed. So I have been consistent in my determination and fortitude to remain happy. There's nothing that can stop that. Nobody can say something to me. This isn't going to make you happy. Just tell me what it is. My happiness has nothing to do with you or what you're going to say. So yeah. So it really just gets you a really great foundation to have the fortitude, to have the determination to make it work. Sure, stuff gets thrown in your path, and you forge through it. You don't go around it. You don't stuff it. You just go through it, and it always works out.
It's interesting because entrepreneurship, like I said, not an easy path at all for anybody, regardless of the market segment, regardless of the business. Hard decisions, usually people decisions, very difficult.
Mhm.
And something you just said is remarkable and so true. Other people don't make you happy. Other people don't make you sad. Other people don't make you angry. That's all within each of us, right? And
Mhm.
so when you're an entrepreneur and you're making big decisions that affect people, right? Have an expression that I say often, people matter most. And when for some reason we allow other people to matter more than ourselves first, it can cause real strife in almost every other area of our life. Our business might be contributing to the unhappy in our business. You talk a lot about boundaries.
Mhm.
Maybe talk a little bit about how you see that, especially for entrepreneurs who, really need to stay true to their vision.
Well, to be happy, you have to be love. Okay, everyone's love, and I think that whole word has been so distorted by society that we are loving beings having a physical experience. So, from that perspective, you have to set boundaries. So often people have an awakening, and I love everyone, and no, you do. You love everybody. You just don't have to have lunch with them, and it's really sometimes love says yes, no, stay, and go. And it depends on it's a degrees of the relationship you have with people that you have to maintain these boundaries that I'm available for this, I'm not available for that. And being clear with your boundaries, either through body language or through verbal statements saying, what part of no did you misunderstand?
Right.
Or go, did you misunderstand? So, and
Is that part of what you call compassionate detachment?
yeah, I've created a process in my coaching business called the Game of 10. And one of the things that was really kind of gnawing at me, how do I really, really, really care? And how do I really, really, really don't give a hoot? Okay. Typically I say another word. And it's how do you maintain that balance? And so for a couple of years I was using a different word. And it was kind of compassionate, but you want to be detached too, that how much do you really have to give of yourself to the situation before it affects you and how you see the world and how you see others? So I checked with my chats, all three of my colleagues, GTP, Chat, and Gemini, and I put it in and said, up with a single word because I love marketing. My favorite thing in the world is marketing. And so I said, come up with the word is what we talked about. And they came up with two words, compassionate detachment, all three of them. And I think that's the basics of Buddhism as well, philosophy. And yeah, they came up with that. But I said, okay, now I want one word. And neither one could come up with one. So the way I work is if it isn't there, I'll make it up. Okay, I'll create one. Okay. And I'm going to have it be part of the game of 10. And so I told my chat that, and it came up with a couple okay ones. But so I finally came up with 10 care, Tencare, and put an accent to go at the end to make it bougie. Tenkare.
Well, I think before we understand that, maybe we want to talk about the game of 10.
Okay.
right? And what that's all about.
Well, the Game of 10 is a process that I registered in 2015 with the U.S. Patent and Copyright Department, and it's the basis of my coaching process. And it's really the game of life. It's a combination of all personal development, self-help books, philosophies, and honed into basically a simple process that I use, the six phrases, and then how to let go. Because a lot of our, the word I want to use, dysfunctional ways of being are based on traumas or disappointments we've had in our life. And we look through a lens of that perception through those disappointments and traumas. So unless we let them go, then we're going to repeat them. They're mistakes by others or ourselves. And it's letting go. And so many people don't know the whole process of letting go. We can start talk about that after. The six phrases are 10 is the highest level of awareness that we have. It's our connection to our being, our divine being, our self presence of who we are experiencing a physical reality. So when I say, you can do it together if you like. Would you like to do that?
Sure.
All right. So the declarations are I am 10.
I am 10.
Well, I think you can do it a little bit more enthusiastic because you
I am 10.
yes,
Okay.
I'm doing the best that I can with the awareness that I have.
I'm doing the best that I can with the awareness that I have.
I'm always right with the awareness that I have.
Always right with the awareness that I have.
I am enough.
I am enough.
I do enough.
I do enough.
I have enough.
I have enough.
Those phrases are designed to shut off our ego from protecting us. It answers all the questions it asks throughout the day, throughout the night when you can't sleep, from worrying, from being depressed, by being anxious. It puts you in the present moment. The first phrase is a declaration of who we are, everyone, whether you know it or not. The next two phrases are declarations of our, I'm going to say, divine innocence. The next three phrases put you in present moment awareness, the be, do, and have of the present moment. And what a lot of people don't realize is what the universal quantity or the universal portion is,
Hmm.
and that is enough. The universal space, you have time, which is the present moment, Eckhart Tolle, the power of now. And then you have the universal space. And when you combine those two, now is always enough. It opens up the possibilities and the solutions that are in your present moment awareness.
Wow. So the definition of going back to your 10 care, you called
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
compassionate detachment. How do you see that combined with now?
In the present moment, there are no problems. There's only opportunities to have solutions. So why do you want to attach to a problem when you can attach to an opportunity and a solution? So it's a shift in perception.
So no more worry, no anticipation, no anxiety over what will be, right? Just
Well, I think that
I am enough.
I am
Right?
enough. I'm
And
enough.
that it encompasses all of that, right? If you can, and I think there's a difference between the intellectual understanding of that and
Mhm.
the tactile feeling of what that actually feels like for someone.
Well, you're really declaring grace and gratitude with I am, I do, and I have enough is thank you. And it's just, we are in a state of grace. How can you be anxious and depressed and unhappy when you're in a state of grace and gratitude without guilt and shame and knowing who you are as a human being? And you're combining the time space, you're combining the human and the being in alignment. I mean, ego is great if it's aligned with who you are. It's horrible when it's not. It's your frenemy, it's the saboteur, it's the mind-made self that doesn't do. It's the artificial intelligence of ourselves versus our natural.
Doesn't always serve us well.
It only if it's in alignment and use it as a tool. So we have thoughts, we have feelings, we have emotions. Those are great tools to use to be aware. And our body will tell you where you're out of alignment if you use them properly. We have a mind, we have a body. It's a tool. Our being is who we are to be aligned to those tools and use those tools with and for and in alignment. So it is about awareness. And my definition of awareness is without thought. And so often we get Eckhart Tolle, I'll quote him several times because I think he's great, one of many. And he says the biggest addiction we have is overthinking in this world. And it becomes an addiction. It becomes we're using our thoughts versus our awareness. And our awareness at the Gestalt International Study Center, where I got my first coaching certificate, that was a tagline: awareness is the key. but people are addicted to thinking and they don't know how not to think. But those six phrases stop your thoughts. So I took coach my coachees to memorize these phrases and use them throughout the day to realign. Just reset after a phone call, reset after a conversation with somebody, deep conversation, reset. So you're basically starting your computer up, rebooting it, and just like clearing out all the cookies and old apps that you don't need at this present moment. Just keeping in awareness. And when you're in awareness, you're in alignment. And when you're in alignment, you download intuitive ideas. And you want to work from your intuition versus from old thoughts from the past. And most people
Sure.
operate from old thoughts from the past. It's food. If you have food for thought, you're using old leftovers from 2 weeks ago or a week ago, and it's old food. And you want to have fresh food for thought, and you want to download those from ideas, right brain, left brain, turn it into a thought, put it into action or not, and move from there. That's where the first physicality is the synapse in the brain. It's a synapse that is electric, and we use it to create energy, to work with the physical world.
So awareness, there are so many assessment tools, so many
Mhm,
professional
mhm,
systems, additional tools, right? That everyone from HR to CEOs to
mhm,
managers use to try to put effective teams together. And they use all of these assessments to create greater awareness, not just for management or for ownership, but for the actual person as well, because most people are not aware, right, of even some of the things that are holding them back.
True statement.
So I'm bringing this full circle because it's so important that each of us, no matter what we do, no matter what field we're in, be self-aware and we have awareness of others around us and
Mhm,
how that interaction
mhm.
plays.
Yes.
Do you ever meet somebody that for whatever reason you've had no negative interaction, but for whatever reason it just doesn't work? It doesn't.
Well, we are energetic beings. If you're using
Exactly.
intuition, you just know. You know,
Right.
I'm
Right.
I'm walking by a Debbie Downer or Danny Downer. And it's like, how are you? Oh, I had a horrible day, and I said, I'm all
Uh,
set. Yeah. So
we were saying earlier, that at this point in our careers, we're really very blessed to be able to hand select the folks that we work with, and
yeah.
because it's what's in alignment for us.
Exactly. So there's another game being played with lack of awareness, and I call that the game often played, 1 through 9. And that game has three categories: fear, 1 through 9; self-doubt, 1 through 9; guilt, 1 through 9; shame, 1 through 9. Guilt is I did something bad, they did something bad. Shame is I'm bad, they are bad. So these are the things we have. So typically, when I meet a new client, they're usually operating from 6 to 9. Okay, sometimes 10. And my first response is if they were 10, I go, "What do you need, a friend?" And they'll go, "Yes." So it's like, and 10 is infinite. So it's not a destination, it's a mindset. So in that gap, there is elements of fear, self-doubt, guilt, and shame at some level. And I had a potential client on the phone who was a mathematician. I said, "How many options are there in the game often played?" Well, she said, "That's easy. 9 times 9 times 9 times 9. I think it's 6,541 or close to that." So there's several. It's the matrix. So that's why most people live in their world of, 1 through 9, because there's so many options. But the higher you go, the more options there are. And so that's why most people stay there. But that gap is so insidious because that's where we fill it in with artificial intelligence within ourselves. And that's what's room for addiction, for pain, suffering, overthinking, depression, anxiety. And people will fill it in by many different ways rather than through self-acceptance, unconditional loving, forgiveness, the whole thing to close that gap, to have your natural intelligence, your natural intuition, your natural intentionality to manifest what you actually want. That's how you fill it in. So people who are ones get 10% of what they ask for. People who are fives get 50% of what they ask for. People who nines get 90% of what they ask for. Tens get everything they ask for. And then once you know you're a 10, what do you want? And that's the big question. I didn't know that was possible. And what are you willing to work towards? What are you willing to what's your passion? What's your drive? What is your big dreams? Okay, that's the game of 10. That's the game often played. Uh,
It's a remarkable, what you've done is you've taken such really big concepts and you've brought them to manageable pieces for people to be able to digest, explore in a way that is without fear, no anxiety around it. We are enough. I am enough, right? And wherever your starting point is,
yeah,
that's fine.
yeah, it's fine. Everyone's always 10. You cannot not be 10, but you can lack the awareness that you are that. Okay. And so that's where letting go has to come in. Because when you say these phrases, especially the audience and you, and when you say these phrases, your ego will work against you and saying, well, what about this? Remember you did this? Remember you failed at this? Okay. So fortunately during COVID, got to meet Marianne Williamson. She was my writing coach, and I took Miracle Minded coaching with her. And she gave during one of her book coaching sessions. Um, Luckily, I was working with a publishing house that said, "You're going to download the book in your mind." I said, I found the right publisher because this is how I operate and have been for many years. And Marianne, during COVID, she was grounded in DC because of it. And every Wednesday, she had Miracle Minded, the Author's Incubator was called. So every Wednesday at 4. And one of the things she said was how to let go. And people think they have to let go of a person, place, or situation. Letting go and forgiveness, same word, much like love and trust, same word. So many words that we say are the same word, same concept. So
Well, English doesn't really give us the variety of words to express ourselves like some other languages do. We're limited.
pretty much. So people think they have to let go of the person, place, or situation. The fact is, you have to let go of the thought about the person, place, or situation because the situation happened. It may have been horrific, trauma-based abuse beyond imagination, but the only one it serves is holding on to it serves nobody and destroys our body, our mind, our lives. So it's so important to do it for yourself and mental health. And they can be minor disappointments getting you to 9. They can be major disappointments getting you to 1 and 2 and 3, and to the point of you want to just commit suicide. And the gap is so great in there that the addictions and the mental health is unimaginable. I can't imagine it. And so forgiveness is an art, okay, that even I don't think that I actually coached a minister and taught him this process, and he says, "Oh my God, I never thought of it that way." Because you can't, Einstein says you can't solve a problem at the level it was created. So at 1 or 2 or 3, you can't forgive that person from that anger, from that victimhood, from that despair. You can't do it. So you really have to give it to your 10 self that's always there, always waiting for alignment, always, you can't live because it's doing a trillion things in your body all the time, whether you know it or not. It's life. It's in our DNA and our RNA, and it's in every cell in our body. It's energy. So she said she gave this process of creating a temple in your mind. Isn't it funny how we have 2 temples, right?
Yeah.
So our mind is our temple, and it's a receiver for consciousness. So I have my clients create a temple in their mind. It's their own, it's personal divine temple. And in that temple is an altar. So I have them think of the thoughts that come up that are not 10 fear thoughts, self doubt thoughts, guilt thoughts, shame thoughts, and put them in a group. Sometimes they might take a dump truck load the first time we do it. And eventually gets down to a wheelbarrow, eventually gets to I take a bouquet of thoughts because I was a florist, and I'll take a
I
bouquet
love that.
I'll take a bouquet of thoughts, put them on the altar, and and then I'll say, I'm willing to see this differently because we were willing to have this affect us, trauma deeply affect us, disappointment affect us mildly. So it's really about letting go. And if it's a really deep trauma, part of it will come back. But each time you do it, it's less and less power over ourselves. So we are power, we are control. So often people want to project that onto others. I want to have power over them. I want to have control over them. It doesn't work. And we are the power. We are the control. We are it. Everyone else
So
is.
if you can distance yourself from the memory of the trauma, if you're able to move past that, or maybe I'm not getting this right, but I always thought that the forgiveness piece was more for us than it was for the person that wronged us in some way,
100%.
because the only one it doesn't, that it hurts is us, right? Holding on to a memory prevents me from moving forward to be my 10, to be my best self, to be 10 at 10, right? And it holds me in a place that's clouded, clouds my judgment, clouds my thinking, holds on to anger, disappointment, frustration, all those things that are blocking me from having that intuitive
Yes,
sense.
yes. You will always remember it, but it won't hold the power over you of the emotional attachment to it, the thought attachment to it, the story attachment to it, all the thing that attaches to it that just holds us down to a
So when
lower.
you say letting go, it's letting go of the attachment to all of those aspects of the trauma, the disappointment, the anger, the fear, the anxiety, all of that, right?
Which are thoughts, feelings, and emotions around it. Yes. So the ego loves to create a story to protect us from this. Some people, all people are bad, all people are going to hurt me. Well, that's not a fact. It's not true. But if you live your life like that, then it really is going to limit who you're going to be around and how successful you're going to be in traditional life, society. So it is about letting go. It is also about having discernment, having critical thinking, having using your thoughts, using your discretion, using your tools that we have. Yet the ego, our protective self, will take over if we allow it to. And then you're living as inauthentic self, as imposter syndrome, as a lot of people have today.
I could talk to you about this subject for hours. But
Okay.
I want to get to the book, and I want you to share that story. And what was it like to do that with your son?
Well, we both have ADHD. Okay. I'll preface it with that. What was it like working with? He's brilliant. I love him. Um, I'll die for him. I'm not his best friend, which he asked me once, we're best friends, aren't we? I said, no, God, no. Would your best friend die for you? No. I said, I'm not your best friend. I'm your father, and I will always be your father. And I'm a parent and present with him. And what was it like working with him? He's brilliant and gifted, and his executive functions is low, and his time management is poor, was. And so it was, got
All
to
those things can get better, though.
Oh, it all
All
gets
those
better. You
things
can
are
you can always be
trainable. Those are
you
all
can
trainable.
you can always be better at the trainables, okay?
Yeah.
You can never be better at who you are in your essence. That is perfectly 10 all the time. So good point. Good point, and yes. So I'm so glad I did it. I had to write him out of the book at one point because he was using excuses where I had 4 or 5 people on my end saying I need this, this, and this by
Right,
this
right,
date.
right.
Everyone is scheduling their
We're
days.
good to go, and you need to catch up.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wrote him out of the book and said, he goes, Dad, I need more time. I said, no, you don't. You're all set. I wrote you out of the book.
Right,
So he goes,
right, right,
Dad, I've been working. I said, then get your stuff in on time. It's
right.
up to you. We're good either way. All
Yeah,
right. So talk to you later.
I love that.
He
I
had
love
it in on time. Like
Steve, we're gonna
five.
have to have a whole new session just on parenting.
Well, I have one child, and I think there's more than I'm an expert at parenting my child. I'm not an expert at parenting
Oh
other.
no, it's not about being an expert. It's
Yeah.
just about parenting,
It's about it's
which is an
about
imperfect,
It's
you
about
know,
improvisational.
right,
It's
right,
improvisational comedy sometimes.
right. Well, just goes to, everything you're saying. You are enough. I am enough.
Yeah, we're doing the
Uh,
best we can with the awareness we have.
and we're exactly where we're supposed to be at any given moment in time. And we could talk endlessly about all of the different thoughts and philosophies around
Mhm.
this subject. And I want to encourage people to reach out to Steve because he is not only a wealth of knowledge, he is truly a wealth of compassion and kindness and giving and sharing, and the ability to bring us back to center is so valuable. I really enjoyed our conversation. I appreciate your time sharing you and the game of 10. The fact that you gamified this is unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Got to put it on a video game,
Well, maybe that's what's next.
Maybe gaming, Game Boy, Game of 10.
I would think that it would have a grand audience.
Well, thank you, Lisa. Thank you for having me on your show and the podcast, and I really appreciate it. And you're a wealth of knowledge too, and keep up your amazing work.
Thank you. I really look forward to our next conversation.